Hey, Spirit Island fans, something a little bit different today. I want to play Sun-Bright Whirlwind without an adversary, just to sort of show off some of the play patterns. I'm going to be releasing a Sun-Bright Whirlwind guide somewhat shortly. This is a little bit more beginner focused. I think there's still a lot of complexity to the spirit, and I think you'll enjoy the game, even if you're playing at a higher level. But let me know if this is something that you like. I'm considering making a few guides in the future. I enjoyed the one of using lore to beat Russia 6 as sort of a guide to your first Russia 6 victory. It was well received, and I'm considering making a few more of them, either spirit specific or adversary specific. So let's get into Sun-Bright Whirlwind. So the first thing to know is that a ton of Sun-Bright Whirlwind's power is going to be gated in this special rule, where when you add a presence during growth, and only during growth, proliferations don't count, you push an explorer or town from that land. The highest value use of this is almost always going to be to stop a land from building, because pushing a single explorer out of the land makes it no longer build. This is sort of a free action, and in particular, it's a very powerful action that you get access to for the first 3 to 4 turns of the game. You don't get it on your reclaim turns, so they do tend to be a little bit weaker, but it is very powerful. Your growth options, the reclaim, you gain a power card and gain 1 energy. Uh, Growth 2 is add a presence and gain 4 energy. This gain 4 energy allows Sun-Bright Whirlwind to be kind of a major power spirit, sort of subtly. You can easily pivot into going majors because you always have the option to just add 4 energy every single turn to your hand, even if you haven't previously gone top track to start developing that energy track. I'll also note that the sun tag on the top track is really useful for slinging major powers because most of the best major powers have suns, so it makes it easier to threshold some of the really strong ones. And then your third growth option is gain a power card and add a presence, which is kind of the most common one that you'll be using. Because our reclaim is a little bit weaker, gaining power cards is really strong because it extends the amount of time before you have to reclaim. Violent Windstorms is the slow innate, and the first level just lets you push and explore. Best use of that is going to be to stop a land from building. And you're already kind of seeing the control tools that the spirit has, where you can use your growth option before the fast to stop a land from building, and then in the slow, you can stop another land from building. The second level of the innate lets you push up to 2 explorers or towns, so this also lets you stop a land from building. The third level sort of adds it so that when you push things, you do 1 damage into the land that it was pushed to. And so one thing that Sun-Bright Whirlwind has is a lot of powers that do chip damage, so doing like 1 damage at a time. You also see this in Tempest of Leaves and Branches, which lets you choose up to 5 different invaders and do 1 damage to each of them. Those are really strong in combination with each other, because that lets you kill a town where previously this only hits a town for 1. And then the final level of Sun-Bright Whirlwind's innate does 4 damage in target land. This is sort of your big nuke. And so Sun-Bright Whirlwind has a lot of control tools to sort of stop things from building, but eventually you do need to destroy stuff or generate fear, and there's very little fear generation in the kit. So you either do sort of need to tech towards majors with top track and the G2 gain 4 power or 4 energy, or tech towards bottom track and be hitting this innate constantly, which you can do on 4 card plays because you have air on your tracks. So you can do this as soon as turn 4 without support, which is, or probably turn 5 without support. And it is very powerful because you're doing 4 damage in this land, but also you're pushing 3 explorers or towns. So you're also doing 3 damage in an adjacent land. So it's kind of, you can think of it as like the major power Fire and Floods, which does 4 damage in 2 different lands. Let's talk about the unique power cards. Gift of Sunlit Air gives someone +1 range, and if you target someone else, they gain 1 energy. This is a really strong effect, and it costs 0 and has perfect elements for you. A lot to love about this card. The next card is Gift of Windsped Steps, which does someone can slow to fast a card that has push or gather on it, and it can be a power, not just a card. So you can use this on your innate or someone else's innate. And if you target another spirit, they gain 1 energy. This is ridiculously strong. It is a huge support effect that many people are going to be excited to get. And even using it on yourself for like Scatter the Winds or the innate can be really powerful. So these 2 cards together makes Sun-Bright Whirlwind one of the premier support spirits in the game. It really, really benefits from being in a game where there's lots of different people to target them with. But also, Sun-Bright Whirlwind really likes having both of these available for itself, so it works very well as a solo spirit. Tempest of Leaves and Branches chooses up to 5 different invaders and does 1 damage to each of them. So the lowest value use of this would just be like pinging an explorer to stop it from building, which is not bad, but it's a little pricey for 2 energy. But a lot of Sun-Bright Whirlwind's abilities are going to push explorers, so you can push them all into the same land and then tag them all with Tempest of Leaves and Branches. The other option, as I mentioned earlier, is to combine this with the innate, which does 1 damage 3 times to 1 land, and then you can combine that to close stuff off with Tempest of Leaves and Branches. Scatter to the Winds is kind of your get out of jail free card. Choose up to 5 explorers, towns, or Dahan and push them to as many different lands as possible. This is sort of the, oh no, this land is about to ravage. It already has a blight. There's a ton of stuff there. Let's just get things out of it. So with that, I'm going to play a game with no adversary just to sort of show some of the play patterns that are common for Sun-Bright Whirlwind. Okay, and we get Sands. Early on, Sun-Bright Whirlwind has very few tools that let us deal with a city, right? Tempest of Leaves and Branches, that's only 1 damage per invader. That still leaves 2 damage to deal with. And then even with Violent Windstorms, we're just sort of like 1 damage in the land that it was pushed to per pushed invader. This can combine, but it's kind of hard to get to. We're dealing with cities mostly by using major powers or using the full level of the innate, which we just don't have the tools to deal with. So I think I'm going to allow this to blight to scale or gain a power card, and then, hopefully I gain a defend 4 so that I can defend this. Let's see what we get. Okay, we have defend 5. That is great and will perfectly solve this land. Sap the Strength of Multitudes, also, if you have an heir, increases the power's range by 1, and we are going to have an heir because every single one of our cards has an heir. This is a great draw for us, but any defend 3 or higher would have been enough for us to solve this. So, where do we place our presence? I like the idea of placing it here because we will be able to push the Explorer out. And we kind of have this solved and this solved already. So I think we can go up to 2 energy rather than 2 card plays because we don't need 2 card plays this turn. This is a bit of a greedy opening, but it sort of gives you just a big bank of energy, which will let you pivot to majors a little bit easier if you want to. And so let's push this Explorer into the wetlands. And I picked this because it already has a town, so it's kind of already a problem. Now, I'm going to play Scatter to the Winds. And the reason for this is that we're going to have an Explorer into a non-sands land. And no matter where it explores, I can solve one of those lands with Scatter to the Winds, right? So even if we get the Wetlands Explorer, which would be the worst option, we could push the Explorer back into the sands, the town out into one of these, and then another Explorer somewhere else. So I think this will let us solve a land that's coming up that we don't yet know what it is from the Explorer. And then next turn, we're going to play Sap here, and then something else, and we'll probably hit the innate. And then when we add presence, we'll solve a second land. Okay, we get mountains. So I'm going to use Scatter to the Winds, I think, here, and push the Explorer in. Actually, no, let's do that differently. We'll use it here, and we'll push the Explorer into here, and then the Dahan into here, because we know we're about to defend it. So now, when we place presence, we're going to place it here, which will push the Explorer out. And if we play Tempest, we can then do 1 damage to the Explorer and 1 damage to the city so that it dies to the Dahan counterattack. So Tempest plus Sap will give us a full defend here. Let's grab another power card. Bird's Cry Warning is a great card for us because it has both of our elements, and we can allow it to use Dahan counterattacks to kill off the cities that are kind of tough for us. Gift of Nature's Connection is a great support card. It's very strong. We already have a ton of support cards in our kit, and if we tech too far into support cards, we can find that like we're empowering everyone else to do a lot of great stuff, but it's tough for us to solve our own board, which in a multiplayer game can be great. Like just being the support bot that enables everyone else to get crazy strong is good, but not as good in a solo game. And sometimes that won't be the answer, even in a multiplayer game. Thriving Choke Fungus is an interesting card. I don't think it's the right pick here just because the lack of elements. It's a little expensive. And Drywood explodes in smoldering splinters. Just kind of a little bit of a weaker card. Let's go with Bird's Cry Warning because of the elements. And now we are going to add a presence, and we'll add it there. And we're going Tempest and Sap. And we're not hitting our innate, but that's fine because none of our lands are building at the moment. And we're going to get an Explore into one of these 3 lands. And then next turn, we're going to be able to play all 3 of these cards, which will give us level 3 of the innate, which is pretty strong. So let's go ahead and play these. Okay. Add Blight to a land with towns or cities, and we can prevent this by paying energy. And I think the energy cost is actually 0. So we're just going to pay 0 energy. But if this had been a turn later, that extra energy that we banked up by going top track, kind of useful. In each land with disease, we don't have one of those. And we can add a Dahan to one of our lands with Dahan. We only have one of those up there. Okay, we're building in the mountains, but we're not actually building. And now let's grab a power card, and I kind of think that I'm going to grab a major. We're not going to play it yet, but it will let us do... Like, I think it's unlikely that we're going to want to play Sap the Strength of Multitudes again. So let's pick up a major, and then we're going to add our presence here. So we will push it out of there so that that won't build. Let's go... Okay. I don't want to say that we whiffed on this draw, but this is not a great draw for us. Mists of Oblivion does 1 damage to each invader, which can combine fairly well with the chip damage from Tempest of Leaves and Branches, but it's a little bit expensive for what it is, and we're probably not going to threshold it because we don't have any moon. We do have lots of access to air, and we have 1 card with water, Scatter to the Winds, so it's not impossible to threshold this, but right now we're probably not going to. Jungle Hunters is, I think, just a good card. The problem is that we don't have any presence in jungles, and it's actually kind of inconvenient for us to add presence to jungles because our presence adds have to serve the additional purpose of stopping a build. So this is a little bit weak for us. Pent-Up Calamity is pretty good. I mean, Add a Strife and Disease is a strong effect. We're not going to threshold it. We don't have the fire. And Fragments of Yesteryear is just a very expensive card for what it is. I think there's a good chance that we're probably not playing any of these, but I'm going to pick Mists of Oblivion just because I could see the world in which we do something cool with it. Okay, add a presence, go up to 3 card plays, and we're going to push the Explorer out. I'm going to push it into here. Actually, no, I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm going to add it here. And the reason that I didn't add here is that we don't want to be in a position where we have to add presence to something that's already a sacred site. It's just inefficient for us. So this works well. Okay. And now we have 3 card plays. We have +1 range. We can move some Dahan, and we can slow to fast. And we can push 2 explorers and towns in the slow phase. So let's combine those. Slow to fast. And let's use this to push both of these into there. And now the +1 range doesn't matter for us. And the Dahan movement, we can find a way to use this. It is not super important. We're kind of playing this for elements, to be real. But let's pair up our Dahan to better protect them from events and put them in lands that have things in them. Okay. For each board, discard the top minor power. We can add a Blight to a Sands, and then everything has -1 health for the rest of the turn. Or we can pay for it and then proliferate to one of our lands with Dahan, and we only have one land with Dahan. Mists of Oblivion, I don't think I'm going to play this game, so I'm happy to forget that. So let's ease the drought, forget mists, and then we are going to go up to the air. We can only add it to here because it has to be a land with Dahan. Beast damage isn't relevant. Defend 1, not relevant because we don't have any ravages. And now we get Sands. So we are reclaiming now, which is a little bit of a weaker turn. And I think that next turn, we're going to want to full innate into this land. So that means that we need these 4 cards ready to go when we get up to 4 plays. So we're probably just playing 1 card this turn. And let's gain a minor power. Sear. So we don't have any airs, the first thing I'll notice on here, which we don't love. Sear Anger has a Sun, which is kind of nice. Out of Badlands. Badlands is great with chip damage, like Tempest, or from the innate. Shore Seeds doesn't have an air and costs 1 more, but it also has a Wild. Wild tokens are good for control spirits, who are less likely to have tons of built-up lands. Like, we just get more value out of them. Unquenchable Flames adds a Badlands if you play it with another card that has fire. It's probably just like a weaker version of Sear Anger. And Weep for What Is Lost, we don't have enough Blight on the board. So I'm going to grab Sear Anger. And we're going to play 2 cards, I think Tempest and Sear Anger. And then next turn, we can play all 4 of these, which will hit our full innate, because we'll have 3 Sun, and then 4 air, plus the air on our tracks. And so we're strategically underplaying so that we can get that big bomb of our innate, which we've already highlighted as a particular strength of the spirit. So we know that one of the Sands is going to build, so we can stop one of them from building with Tempest. The other option would be to use it here to just clear out all these explorers. I don't think that's as high value as stopping the build. So let's go ahead and just ping this. It's a very weak use of Tempest, but we're kind of ahead of the invader's tempo, so it is kind of where it is. The next Explore card matches all lands without towns or cities instead of the printed land type. This is awful for us because we only have a single land that has a city, so we're about to get Explorers everywhere. No disease. And we get to reclaim a power card or regain a unique it previously forgot. We don't have the Dahan relevant to do that. And we get Explorers everywhere. Okay. So we're going to build out of the wetlands. We know in this land we are doing 4 damage and pushing 3 things. So that will full clear, right? We can push 3 explorers and then do the 4 damage. So we don't need to do anything to this wetlands, which I think means it makes sense to potentially push out of here. And I'm actually going to push it into here because we're going to have overkill damage. Right, because we're going to push 3 things and then 4 damage, so we're good. And then let's add a Badlands there. Okay. And now let's gain... We're going to have 4 energy, and we're spending 3 energy. I think if we gain the 4 energy, we'll sort of be good for energy for the rest of the turn, even if we decide to pivot to majors. So that's an appealing option. We're going to push this into here, concentrating problems in the Badlands that already exists. Okay. And now Gift of Windspeed sped steps lets us use this fast. So we push 1 Explorer, then we push, let's see, 2 more Explorers. 4 damage here fully clears that out, and then we get to do 4 damage here because of the Badlands, so we can kill the town and 2 Explorers. And so now we have 1 fear card earned, but we've hit the requirement for terror level 2, so we just need a little bit of fear at this point, and we close out the game. And because of that bad event card that added Explorers everywhere, our control tools are less useful than they were before. Control works best on lands that are already controlled. So we just need to figure out how are we going to get that fear, which is one of the reasons why I grabbed the energy, so that we can play an energy or we can play a major when we reclaim. So pushing Dahan doesn't really matter. Oh, we're ravaging here. I totally forgot that they were ravaging. So we can do this a little bit differently. Okay. Let's go back. And instead, we're gonna, on violent windstorms, push this into here, and then add the Badlands there. And now we do the same exact thing. Okay. And now we go all 4 cards. And our targeting is now a little bit different. So we play our 2 support cards on ourselves. And we're going to push these guys out. And now we do 4 damage here. So that's no longer a problem. And then we can do 4 damage, which will let us kill the town and 2 Explorers. So the same practical effect, but we've just cleared this land instead of clearing this land. Bird's Cry Warning I'm going to use to defend this Dahan, just in case we get a bad event that does +1 damage. Okay, 1 fear per power card that generates fear. None of those. 1 damage in a land with Badlands or Disease. Sure. We do lose a Dahan, sadly. On each board with towns or cities. Oh, we don't have those. Okay, skip all Explore actions and lands with at least 2 Dahan. Okay, and now we can Scatter to the Winds, which I'm going to use to clean out one of the jungles. We're reclaiming, so we're not adding presence next turn. So let's remove from, I think, here. And we're going to push them into the wetlands because this is about to ravage and it'll die in the ravage. Okay, we're going to forget Seer Anger to pick a major. And we are only 6 fear away from terror level 2 and we only have 1 town. So anything that gets a lot of fear can be good for us. I'm looking at Talons of Lightning purely just because it has 3 fear on top of it. And we can use it immediately to clear out this land. This is like a very expensive use of this card. But it does full clear the land and get us a total of 4 fear. We only need 6 fear in order to win. So I kind of like it. The other option is Vigor, which we can easily threshold, and we can use to just like, we could clear out this land, and this land with it. I think that's a stronger line of play. We have a ton of Sun on our cards, and we're forgetting Seer Anger. So let's go Vigor, Windstep, Tempest, and Gift, which doesn't give us the full innate, but Vigor does a ton of damage either way. And we have thresholded Vigor, so we're going to use it here. push one Dahan there and one Dahan here. And now that does full clearing that land, and then we do 5 damage here. And now nothing's building in the jungles. This land won't blight, but it will get to clear itself in the Ravage. And we are 1 fear away. No, we're 1 fear and 1 fear card away from Terror level 2. So let's play our support cards on ourselves. And now we can Tempest to save a Dahan, or we can use Violent Windstorm. I like the idea of saving Violent Windstorm for the slow phase, because we know that we will explore somewhere, and we can just solve wherever explores. So let's use Tempest to save the Dahan there. Okay. Towns do +1 damage, not relevant for us. Each beast destroys an explorer. We're actually very close to a Terror level 1 victory, which is kind of rare. I'm pairing up the Dahan. No jungle build, mountain explore. And I think we're actually going to win at Terror level 1, because we push both of these into here. It does 2 damage. Board is fully cleared. Great. So I think this illustrated some of the strengths and weaknesses of Sun-Bright Whirlwind so well. Weakness: we don't generate any fear, and because we mostly stop buildings from existing, you don't get any fear from destroying buildings. So you will drag down the fear average for your team quite significantly. The upside: those support abilities are so strong. The ability to make something slow to fast is really great. The ability to hit your innate and then make it fast is a huge power swing. You can also set up back-to-backs where you use your full innate slow and then loop it back and play it fast. That's really powerful. The control in the spirit, unparalleled outside of like Finder. We were able to keep our board almost entirely clear, even with events that were conspiring to put explorers all over the place. I hope this is helpful if you're a new player looking to play Sun-Bright Whirlwind. I think it is one of the most powerful low complexity spirits. I love it. I think it's super fun to play. I think it has a lot of great builds. The all bottom track where you're maxing the innate, top track majors, a mix build like the one that we showed off. I really love it. I hope you love it too. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching.